Hello, everyone. Welcome back here for another positions, profiles, and projections. This time going over the wing position. A little bit of a change this season from last year's choices. So last year we had Josh Adokar and Jacob Kiraz as our starting wing pairing, with Blake Wilson and Gerald Skelton, the next two backups who got a fair amount of games. Josh Adokar missed a lot of games through injury. So Blake Wilson and Gerald Skelton were utilized a fair bit. So definitely a position where you need some pretty good backups. If either of our centers go down, as we've seen last year, Jacob Kiraz looks to be our first choice to cover that position. So if just about any position in the back line goes down, one of our backup wingers will most likely be one of the guys that jumps up into the squad. So going over our choices that we have going into 2025, I've got polls going up. So if you want to cast your votes on who you think should play where, make sure to check out at Just Bulldogs on Instagram and Twitter. That's where the polls are. Check out the stories if you want to have your vote. So the choices this year, Jacob Kiraz, Blake Wilson, Marcelo Montoya, and Inari Tuwala. Marcelo Montoya coming over from the Warriors, a Bulldogs junior, was at the club a few years ago, has returned, and Inari Tuwala coming over from the Newcastle Knights. Couple of players departed from our last year's squad. Josh Adokar headed to the Parramatta Eels, and Gerald Skelton to the West Tigers. So good luck to them in their future. Couple of pretty good Bulldogs. Josh Adokar, really big part of our rebuild. Spent the last few years at the club, came when we were in a pretty bad spot. So appreciate Josh Adokar helping to rebuild the Bulldogs, get us back to where we are now. A bit of a disappointing way for him to end his Bulldogs career. Missed a lot of games due to injury this year. And then, a bit of off-field trouble seeing him depart the club. But we do appreciate Josh Adokar's time at the club, and Gerald Skelton as well. I was a big fan of his signing coming over from the Rugby Sevens. Very exciting player, big, strong, fast. Showing some glimpses of what he could do in the top grade, but wasn't able to cement a spot in our side. He heads over to the West Tigers to try to really make a footprint in the NRL. So good luck to Gerald Skelton as well. But our four choices that we have now: Jacob Kiraz, Blake Wilson, Marcelo Montoya, and Inari Tuwala. In my opinion, Jacob Kiraz is an automatic on the wing. I think that's a pretty common choice for everybody. Jacob Kiraz had an outstanding year last year. One of the best wingers in the comp. In my opinion, he's among the top three. I would say Zach Lomax, Brian To'o, and Jacob Kiraz are the best three wingers in the comp. Tough for Kiraz that they're all New South Wales players, so it'll be tough for him to fight into that spot, but I think he's definitely in the mix. We've seen at the end of the season last year that he was part of the Australia squad for that tournament that Australia participated in. Unable to play due to injury, but good to see him getting the recognition and getting picked for those kind of squads. So he locked in one wing position for the Bulldogs. I would expect him to stay on the right side. Him and our captain Stephen Crichton linking up well there and getting a pretty good rapport together. So in my opinion, Jacob Kiraz locks down that right wing spot, and then we have three players fighting for the left wing spot with Blake Wilson, Marcelo Montoya, and Inari Tuwala. A few different players. They've all got a bit of a different style going on. Inari Tuwala, a bit of a smaller body, pretty good on his feet, good footwork, and a pretty good finisher. Marcelo Montoya, very big body. Brings the ball back like an absolute truck. A bit of a front row style, but still pretty good on his feet. And then Blake Wilson, a bit of a combo. He's a smaller body, but he is very good in the get out sets. He's pretty good at finding his front, even though he is a bit lighter. And definitely not worried about getting into the thick of it, doing some of the tough stuff, and a good finisher as well. So it could go a few different ways, depending on what the coaches want, what kind of game plan they're going for. If they just want all meters, then Marcelo Montoya might be the pick. But if you want a bit of a combo, I think Blake Wilson should definitely be in the mix. I think Inari Tuwala is probably at the back of it, at the bottom of the pecking order for those three trying to get into the side. he is a very talented guy, very plenty of ability. So if he can really stand out, I could see him getting into the mix. But I think it's most likely in between Blake Wilson and Marcelo Montoya. Um, Depends who you talk to, where you're looking. There's a lot of people going different ways. If you check out the Just Bulldogs Instagram stories, I've got the vote going on there, and the fan vote is Blake Wilson to get the spot. I'm also in that boat. I think Blake Wilson deserves the spot. Returning from last year, he's had a couple good seasons with the Dogs now, a fair amount of first grade games. Every time he's had to cover for Josh Odekaro, I think he's done a very good job. I do like the way that he plays. So I would like to see Blake Wilson lock in that left wing position and really get that left side attack going. But I could definitely see a world where Marcelo Montoya gets the edge and holds Blake Wilson back into that New South Wales Cup spot, and Marcelo Montoya gets first go. But definitely something to look out for there. But my choice will be Jacob Kiraz locking down that right wing spot with Blake Wilson jumping on the left wing. But definitely one that we get to look out for in the trials in the lead up. I'm sure we'll get to see all of these boys really getting into the mix of this one, really trying to put their best foot forward to lock down one of those wing spots. We have a few other guys fighting for it from the New South Wales Cup side. None that I don't think will be in the mix until potentially later in the season. We still have Eli Clark trying to come up, and also Jonathan Sewer, both debuted for the Bulldogs last year. So a couple of guys that'll be fighting to get back in the mix for the NRL side, but a fair ways to go for them. But yeah, that'll just about do for the position profile and projections going over the Canterbury Bulldogs wing position. In my opinion, Jacob Kiraz and Blake Wilson would be first pick for me, but definitely a few guys that are looking to fight their way in. But I appreciate everyone for listening. If you want to have your vote, make sure to check out @JustBulldogs on Instagram and Twitter. But that'll do. Appreciate everyone for listening. I'll catch you next time. Bye.